Come on in, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Arroyo Show. I'm Brandon Arroyo. If it's your first time here, please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. What a guest we have for you today. Joining us from the upcoming project, The Devil All the Time, Jason Collett. Thank you so much. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's an applause of one, which in certain cases is not what you want to hear, but today...
Standing ovation, please don't. Sit down. Everyone, sit down. You don't have to. It's
Soak it all in, Jason. How's your morning going so far?
Pretty good. I just drank a ton of coffee, and I'm ready to go.
We are off and rolling. I mean, it is... This time of year, this time of this particular year, things are starting to pick back up, but we're still in a time period where acting, there's just not as much happening right now. What are you doing to stay busy, Jason?
I'm eating a lot, pretty much. I'm Netflix binging, which segue into Devil All the Time. No, I've been keeping busy. I have a home gym here at my house, so I've just been working out there whenever I can. And I also took to writing. I've finished a full-length screenplay, first one I've ever done. So it's nice to be able to have the time to kind of focus on these things that you normally wouldn't be able to do if everything was in the full swing of things, you know?
And I mean, you just mentioned it. You're doing something that you hadn't done before with the screenplay.
Yeah.
But
I also started painting too.
Yeah. Really? What?
Yeah.
Where did that start?
I'm just as surprised as you are, Brandon. I found some old canvases at my house. I was like, I should just do it. You know, it'd be fun. And it turns out I'm actually pretty good. I even sold a few of my paintings. Isn't that crazy?
Wow! Congratulations, because that is quite the new undertaking to jump into, the painting for sure.
Yeah, technically, this year I've made more money as a painter than I have as an actor. So I don't know, maybe a career change.
What are you painting? What is your forte?
Honestly, I love pulp culture, so I've been painting like Spider-Man. You know, I even painted a Baby Yoda. Pictures of dogs because I'm a huge dog lover. So I had someone commission me to paint their dog. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything lifelike. And it came out pretty good. I was surprised. So I've got like a hidden talent, and I wouldn't have even known about it had it not been for, quarantine.
Well, breaking new information on Jason right here today. The paintings are on the way.
Yeah. And anyone out there listening, technically I am still, an unemployed actor. So if anybody wants to buy my paintings, to help me pay rent, I would really appreciate it.
Well, let's get into the big thing that did just come out, September the 16th, The Devil All the Time, opposite Tom Holland, Haley Bennett, Robert Pattinson. I mean, these are some real heavy hitters. Well, yeah, I mean, you put them all on one hand, it's like you got an Oscar-worthy...
You honestly can't even put them all on one hand. Like, you can't. You've got too many. You've got to use both.
Yeah, I mean, what a amazing cast to be able to, be in the same project with. What an amazing, company in Netflix to be creating with, because they're putting out so much content. Let's take it all the way back to when you first found out about the project, because I love hearing the booking stories. Where were you? Who gave you the call that you'd gotten booked on the project?
Well, I first got the script. It would have been 2018. So yeah, it was like the winter of 2018. I got the script, and they never send you the full script. It was only just a scene. And I read the scene and I was blown away. Like, this scene was so good. I couldn't even put it down. Unfortunately, we did film the whole scene, but due to editing and stuff like that, parts got cut. So what you see in the finished film isn't exactly what was on the script. But I read the script. And I couldn't put it down. It was like, this is so good. I need to know what this is. And I didn't know anything about Donald's work. And I knew very little about Antonio as a director and a writer, too. So, I immediately bought the book and I listened to it on audiobook over the span of like 2 days. Like, I binged through that thing. And the book is incredible. And it just made me want to do the movie even more. So I called my agent and I was like, I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to be in this movie. I auditioned for the part. I sent off my tape, and I didn't hear anything back for maybe a month. And then all of a sudden I got a call from my agent saying that Antonio is in Atlanta, and he wants to sit down and meet with me about the part.
Real quick, so, Antonio Campos being the director of The Devil All the Time.
Yes. Antonio Campos. He directed and wrote along with his brother Paulo. But so Antonio was going to be in Atlanta. He was like, he wants to talk to you. Super casual. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like casual at all. Like, like this huge director for this massive movie on Netflix just wants to sit down and talk casually. I'm like, yeah, no. So,
So
you know,
chill.
I went to this meeting and I sat down with Antonio, and it turns out I was super nervous, but Antonio is like one of the biggest fans of the book. I loved the book, but Antonio loved the book 10 times more. And I mean, he's been working on this screenplay for 5 years now. And it definitely comes out, and when he speaks about it, like you can just see the love that he has for the source material. So I knew right away that the book was in good hands, that Antonio was going to do justice. But we just geeked out over the book for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, and like just talking about our favorite parts. And then, you know, he wanted to read over the scene. So we read over the scene with his assistant, and did it a couple different ways. But overall, the meeting was excellent. I walked out of there and I immediately called my agent, and I was like, you know what, you're going to get a phone call. And I'm pretty sure I got the part.
Yes.
And my agent laughed. He was like, oh, yeah, that's not how it works. Yeah. And sure enough, like 2 hours later, he's like, okay, you got the part.
Wow.
So that, yeah. And then we filmed maybe 2 months later. It was in March of 2019 is when we filmed that. So
The Devil All the Time, based on the novel by, as you just mentioned, Donald Ray Pollock, takes place in the 1960s after World War II in southern Ohio. Okay, so you get the part. That's always such an exciting moment, like that booking moment. So thank you for sharing that story with us. When you are getting ready and preparing to be in a project like this, talk to me about what your process looks like a little bit. I mean, do you try to, we have a lot of actors that watch this, you know, just because we love to, you know, get into these kind of questions with you. What is your feeling like when you get ready to go to set? Do you try not to over prepare? Do you try not to under prepare? Obviously not under prepare, but what does your process look like?
Well, you never know. Sometimes being underprepared actually is the best course of action, you know, but this was not the case here. I wanted to do my homework and I wanted to do my diligence. I immediately, you know, as I said, I was vaguely familiar with Antonio's work. I know that he was responsible for some amazing series on Netflix, you know, The Sinner. And then he is also After School with Ezra Miller, Christine. You know, like I wanted to become as familiar with his filmography as I could, because if I was going to be working with him, I wanted to understand how he shot, you know, what recurring themes and motives he liked to do in his films. And so that was my first thing, is I just studied up on Antonio, you know. And after that, it was like looking at the rest of the cast. Who does he have in these parts? Who am I specifically going to be acting alongside? For that, it was Jason Clarke and Riley Keough. Luckily, I was already very familiar with Jason Clarke. You know, I've been following his career for a long time. So I know the kind of actor he is. I know the kind of energy he brings into a scene and things like that. So that was another thing. It was just kind of figuring out what the dynamic is going to be with Jason Clarke and Riley and me, you know. And also, you know, figuring out what my interpretation is of the character. Because if you read the book, Gary Matthew Bryson, he's kind of portrayed differently in the book. And that interpretation just wouldn't have worked for the film adaptation, just because of, you know, a whole litany of reasons. It was, you know, just the context of the film, what we wanted to accomplish with the character, what we wanted the audience to feel, and what was going to be the most impactful, you know, without giving any spoilers away, you know, when you find out what happens with these characters. So it was like, it's kind of like I had to do some work in figuring out exactly how I wanted Gary to be portrayed. And ultimately I settled on, you know, this is a film full of mischievous, twisted, dark characters. Almost nobody in the film has any redeeming qualities, except for Tom Holland's character. But even he is kind of steeped in his own kind of darkness too. So I felt, you know, and this was after speaking with Antonio as well, as we felt it would be best served, the story, if Gary was the most innocent, purest, genuine character in the entire film. The one basically glimmer of hope throughout the entire film the one character that you actually want to see good things happen to. And if you know anything about Antonio's work, he's not going to just let that happen. He's going to give you that bait, and then he's most likely going to pull the rug out from under your feet. So that was a lot of fun to kind of play too. And so that was kind of my approach to Gary, is how can I make this character the most lovable? So from the moment you see him on screen, you just look at him, you just want to give him a hug. It's just like, you don't want anything bad to happen to this character. Oh, but Antonio had other plans. So that was kind of my approach, when building the character.
The Devil All the Time, currently on Netflix. September the 16th was the debut, so you got plenty of time to make your way on over there, everybody. There, Jason Collett on the line with us right now, portrayed the role of Gary Matthew. You've been in the business for a while now, and stunt work is is kind of your forte for the last couple of years. Talk to me a little bit about that and how you got into that, because most people try to avoid getting punched in the face at all costs. You, on the other hand, seem to thrive in it. Talk to me about it.
Please. Anybody out there who wants to punch me in the face, send a message to my email, reach out to me on social media. We'll make it happen. We'll set up a time. No, I got into stunts by accident. I've always considered myself an actor first and foremost, and that's what I've always been pursuing ever since 2007. But in kind of my off time from booking roles, it was like I needed survival jobs, and one of those survival jobs was me working as a superhero, Robin, from Batman and Robin, at a theme park in California and Atlanta. So while I was working at the theme parks, I kind of got involved with some of the stunt community there who were working at the stunt show. And in their off time, they would be practicing and rehearsing their stunts, their moves. And they would always need a punching bag. And I was always happy to volunteer, because it was fun to learn a new skill set. And after rehearsing and practicing with them for so long, I just started to get really good at the stunts, because it really does take a lot of hard work and practice to get good. And next thing I knew, I was getting auditions from my agent saying like, oh, they need an actor who can bring the physicality to the role, who can also do the emotional aspect and the vulnerability, of a very strong dramatic performance. And it was that is when I found like, oh, I can do both. Like I pretty much have like a niche, because I can do the physicality and I can get beat up for these roles and kicked around and shoved and pushed. They don't have to hire a stunt guy. I can do my own stunts, but at the same time, I can also deliver the performance of the character. So that just I kind of just fell into it, excuse the pun. But so next thing I knew, I was doing roles like that. So, and even Devil All the Time, there was some physicality involved. So my stunt background has come in handy over the years.
Some would say you Pratt fell into it.
Yes, but
all right, so we're starting to wind down on time here a little bit, but before we let you go, I do have a couple of additional questions. Just where did this first start for you? The entire idea of getting into theater, what was your first training, and when did you start to know that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
I first pursued acting professionally in 2007. That's when I moved from Atlanta to LA. And that's when you could say it was official. I was officially a working actor, but I was, taking classes and pursuing the craft. And
where
kind of doing as much as I could.
Where did you decide to study at? What class? Where did you take classes?
Oh gosh, I took classes all over the place. Joseph Perlman, Mark Sykes, Alice Carter, Sandra Merrill. Like I was studying with all these coaches because I wanted to take in as much as I could and then learn from as many different people. I most recently studied with Terry Knickerbocker up in New York, and he's phenomenal too. I wanted to go back to him, but of course, COVID and stuff like that, it's made it a little bit difficult. But I'm always looking for new teachers and new ways to kind of build my craft.
And so you're diving into the character you're diving into the business. When you first moved out to LA, was it fresh out of high school, fresh out of college? Were you what did you decide?
College.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to act, but in Atlanta at the time, you couldn't really do any acting. It was like you either had to be in LA or New York. So one day it just kind of clicked. I was talking to a guidance counselor and she's like, okay, you got to figure out what you want to do. And at that point, I'd already done philosophy, psychology, business. Like I couldn't make up my mind. I said, well, I want to be an actor. And she's like, huh, well, you got to be in LA for that. And I was like, okay, cool, great. I'll go. And I left like the next week.
Wow.
I knew that that's where I was ultimately going to end up. It's like, I just needed to hear those words, that's kind of what it was.
Now, Atlanta, actually, since 2007, has developed a big movie presence lately. Tyler Perry opened up his very own studio down there, which is...
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta really is a market that's starting to come together. But yeah, I mean, you do have to still... LA and New York is the place for full-time to be, acting.
Well, this was also 2007. So in the last 13 years, Atlanta has blown up exponentially. And that's why I actually came back. I'm in Atlanta now. Which is the irony in it all is I left Atlanta only to come back. But yeah, there's so much going on in the Southeast.
Yeah, I think Stranger Things just filmed in Atlanta as well, or is still currently filming in Atlanta as well. Yeah. Very exciting. Yeah. All right, so we have now what's called the final five. They're the last 5 questions of the interview. They are all about your who, what, when, where, and how of what you got going on right now. Number 1, who do you speak with the most right now?
Who do I speak with the most in terms of?
Just in your life.
Oh, I've been talking to my wall the most recently. I'm just in quarantine, but talking to myself in the mirror. And you're the most interaction I've had with anyone in 6 months, Brandon.
It is an honor. It is a true honor.
Yeah. We're best friends now. And so I'm calling you up every day.
We go way back to 10:03. All right. What is the item that you use each day that is not your cell phone?
The item that I use each day that's on my cell phone. Oh man, it's probably my microwave.
That's a good item to have. All right. When did you know that this was something that you wanted to pursue full time?
Acting. I was probably about 8 years old. I'd done my first stage play. I was a cow in the nativity scene at a local church. And yes, the cow does have lines, Brandon. Everybody knows the cow spoke at Jesus' birth. But I had my line. I came on right after the lamb. And my line was finishing the first half of his, which was, and many friendly beasts. And that was my line. And I blacked out on stage. I didn't say the line. The cow did not speak what he was supposed to speak. It was a disaster. But afterwards, it was like the biggest rush I'd ever felt in my life. And I was like, yeah, this is my life now. I'm now an actor.
It is amazing that those stories are the ones that will stick with you and will always mean so much to you.
I bring part of that cow into every role that I've had. It's haunted me to this day.
When Jason was sitting across the table with Antonio Campos, it goes all the way back to the cow saying, Antonio, I got to tell you about this cow. If you have a cow in this movie.
I do play a cow in Devil All the Time.
Not to get typecasted, but if you enjoy dairy, all right. Where is your dream vacation?
My dream vacation? I want to go to New Zealand.
Okay, why New Zealand?
I don't know. Probably something having to do with Lord of the Rings. It's probably like deep in there in my subconscious that like I just want to go to, the Shire. No, but I love traveling though. I just got back from Peru. Well, I say just, time is irrelevant during COVID, but it was like September of last year. But I went to Machu Picchu. Before that, it was Italy. Like I want to travel all over. So.
Perfect. And final question, how do you define success?
Wow, the simple question. Oh, man. I define success by how the individual feels about their success. Like if they're content and happy with what they're doing and they feel like the work that they're doing have value to them, that's success. I don't think it has anything to do with financial status or monetary, compensation or anything like that, or even publicity. I think it's as long as you're comfortable with the work that you're doing, you're successful at anything that you're setting out to do.
He is Jason Collette. You can see him in The Devil all the time, opposite Tom Holland, Haley Bennett, Robert Pattinson. It is on Netflix. Go ahead and check it out. Playing the role of Gary Matthew. Jason, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today, brother.
No, thank you.